What's going on, warriors? It's your boy, Lionheart, and back. Feels good. I'm doing good. Hope you guys doing good. And we're about to get into this one. And this one is saucy. We're going to talking about Baldur's Gate 3, yeah? And the gaming industry's reaction to it, because it's crazy, man. You got all these development studio leads, managers, directors, heads of like all these like gaming companies just immediately shooting down gamers' expectations or just their perception of when they see this game. They're shooting it down. Say, don't expect this from the game industry going forward. This game is an anomaly, not the standard. Enjoy Baldur's Gate, but don't expect this from the industry as a whole. They show how terrified they are of this game. And so I thought to myself, what is going on? Because I don't know nothing about no Baldur's Gate 3. So I went to go look at Baldur's Gate 3, watch some gameplay of it, and immediately, within about 30 minutes, yeah, well, it was a little bit over 30 minutes, but less than an hour, of watching a channel on Twitch, I could see why they were so terrified of this game. This game got customization. The character models have got details. You can have lots of different builds in this game. You've got lots of different races in this game. You've got orcs, you've got half orcs, you've got elves, you've got dragonborns, you've got humans, you've got half elves, half orcs, gnomes. You've got so many different types of I'm obviously missing other different types of races that are in the game, yeah? Like, you've got so many different types of races. You've got so many different types of classes. You've got druids. You've got fighters. You've got monks. You've got bards. You've got clerics. You've got barbarians. You've got paladins, rangers, rogues, wizards, warlocks, sorcerers. You got all these different types of classes, and they all work. All the skills are working. It's not buggy or glitchy. All the calculations for the damage works nice. The world is open. There's a lot of exploration to do. There's different ways of tackling battles, lots of different fights you can engage in. You can have different types of equipment with different skills. As I said, the story mode, there's amazing cutscenes, like lots of story in that game. The character interactions and the way the characters talk to one another is so amazing. And as I said, like the different types of characters that interact with each other. There's different weapons. There's different types of speech options when you're talking with different people and you're going through the story mode. There's wheel of dialogue, where when you choose the different options of dialogue, it changes the outcome of the story, the outcome of that particular interaction with the person. It takes a story in a different direction, which I don't know if it leads to a different ending, yeah, but I would assume so, but I don't know, right? So I'm not going to talk about the ending and stuff like that, yeah, but it can change the outcome of a certain cutscene or a character's fate. Every different type of class and race has got a particular rare feature. Their stats are different. As I say, their skills are different. There was a lot that I was seeing that game, and I was thinking to myself, oh man, you know what this reminded me of, man? This reminded me of Final Fantasy back in the day, man. Like Final Fantasy 7, when you had like the materia system, and then you had all the different kind of characters in Final Fantasy 7, the summons, the magic, the materia, the world map, the way you approach battle, just so much different stuff, man. The music, the way the story mode, the way the game made you feel, the character interactions, the cutscenes. And then you had Final Fantasy VIII, which is a totally different world, different system. You had junctioning system, but it still felt like a progression. Different characters, music, summons, interactions, world map, flying vehicles all over the place. Final Fantasy IX, where you got transported to kind of like the kind of Baldur's Gate kind of world, the Final Fantasy 14, Final Fantasy 12 type of Iveless world, you know, where you had like all these fantastical characters and you had all the different classes they brought back from the original Final Fantasies, like Final Fantasy 6 and Final Fantasy 3 and Final Fantasy 2. And you had like the paladins and the dragoon and the black mage and the blue mage and the red mage and the white mage, and you had the monks. You had all these different, the monk class, and you got all these different types of classes, and it just reminded me of just those type of games, man. And Mass Effect, you had the amazing game like Mass Effect, which is a space adventure world, galactic adventure. And you had Mass Effect 2, which was an actual improvement on the game with different outcomes from different dialogue options and your different characters as you're going throughout the world. You're meeting different characters, and if you don't go through the right options or the right choices, and you don't travel to a certain area, or you don't do a certain thing in story mode, or pick up a certain item or do a certain quest, you're going to miss a certain character, or you might miss an entire world, or an entire race will not exist in your game if you make the wrong or a different decision. Or it depends on whether you choose to stay with the go on the rebel side, or you whether to be on your own side, or you become a hero or an anti-hero, or you decide to go with the different federations or the government or the galactic police. It depends on what it would change the outcome of the game, you know. And then you had, you know, when that was when EA started to actually look at Mass Effect and say, you know what, people love this game, massive gamer base, user base that love this game, you make a lot of money, we got to maximize this, so we're going to give you less funding, maximize the profits, and it's not even going to matter, because the people, the gamers, are suckers. We already have them. They're like fish on a hook. We've got the fishing rod, we've got the hook, we put the bait on it, we throw it in the lake. We know these gamers that are the fish love this. They love the bait. They love the hooks. They're going to catch on it. Once we get them, we're just going to rope them in. The bait's not going to be high quality bait, but it's bait. Who cares? We're going to rope them in. I mean, the hook, we've used it a couple hundred times to catch other fish, but it's okay. As long as we treat it properly and we're, you know, as much experts as possible, we could keep on reusing this same rod, this same wire, this same hook, and the same bait, and we could just keep on making more profits. Then we got games like Mass Effect 3, which was okay, it was feasible, yeah, but it was no Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 was a 10 out of 10 game. Mass Effect 3 was a 7 out of 7.5 game. And then we got games like Mass Effect Andromeda, right? And then I remember games like, you had Dragon Age, which was a good game, a good starting game. Then you had a game like Dragon Age 2, which is a really good game. And then the game just started to decrease and decrease and decrease as EA started to sink their teeth into it. So games started to de-evolve as games went along. Like I say, like if we look, for example, even I'll say recently, yeah, we had the game called Battlefield 2042, yeah? And that game came along, and I remember the marketing campaign for that game was amazing. It showed like a story mode, It was like amazing. You had these type of crazy battles and the music and the stages. You're fighting in a sandstorm, incoming sandstorm, and you were fighting, and the whole layout of the map would change once the sandstorm hits. You had to run for cover, and you had different types of weapons coming in. It looked amazing. And then the game came out, and the game had it was like an absolute glitchy, buggy mess. The stages had no details, hardly any textures. You could go into buildings and rocks. Like, you literally could just drive into buildings and rocks and mountains, or walk into cars. And when I say walk, I mean just walk. They weren't even there, so you could just walk into it. You could fly your helicopter into a building and just stay in there, and you're literally inside the building, but you're seeing like the empty shells, like when you go underneath a map in a certain game, and you see like the textures and how broken the game is. Essentially, the game had, like I say, it had no story mode, no single player. It had no persistent lobbies. So when you finish like a match, you had to redo the lobby again. You had to redo the matchmaking, so you couldn't just stay in there. There was no class system. You had less character customization in Battlefield 2042 than you had in Battlefield 5. You had like no profile. You had no stats page. You had no global leaderboard. You had no spectator mode. You had a fewer infantry gadgets. You had fewer guns in You had fewer guns in Battlefield 42 than Battlefield 4 on launch. Battlefield 4 had more weapons in launch than Battlefield 2042. What? They're not even trying. Games they launch broken. Right? They don't, because the developers, they don't care. They rush the people. They don't give them the resources. They mismanage the people. They only think about absolute minimum money invested into the development of the game and maximum profit. But they will do maximum promotion to get the game. They put more money into the promotion and advertising than they do into making the game, to hype it up, to get millions of people in there. Then when they do, they say, yeah, sorry, we tried, but yeah, that's just how it is. It's a disgrace, man. And then you look at the games, and it's just non-stop, massive. You look at No Man's Sky at launch, even though they did eventually fix that game years later. Yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda, as I said, Final Fantasy 15. Yeah, which has just completely sold us a lie on that game. Cyberpunk 2077 when it first came out. Fallout 76 when it came out. Look at that Fast and Furious game, absolute joke. Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy, the definitive edition. Yeah. You're looking at all these games, man, and it's just a joke. They literally don't even care about games anymore. That's why they're afraid of a game like Baldur's Gate. They're absolutely terrified, because all they want to do is make games as a service these days. And when you look at like games releasing unfinished, that's not a trend. That's the standard. That's become the standard. That's how it is now. Because that's how they can invest less money into these games and make maximum profits. Because gaming studios these days is owned, run, managed by rich people, by abusers, politicians, bankers, traders, lawyers, corrupt politicians, corrupt government officials that get into gaming, because gaming audience are incredibly passionate, and they put their money where their joy is. They put their money where their pleasure is in gaming. Yeah, and nobody knows better than exploiting people than government officials, especially corrupt ones. Yeah. And they join the gaming industry and they become publishers, developers, and then they always come into an established IP or established company. They never create their own ones. They always come into an established one, yeah, just to make profit. That's literally their whole ethos, their whole end game, yeah. And then they take advantage of like a passionate user base, right? And they're essentially just vampires. That's it. They don't know anything about gaming. They don't care about gaming, and they're just there to take advantage of people in general. And then they will literally destroy the company, mismanage the people, gaslight the employees so that they don't have to pay the gaming developers, brass them out, work them into the ground, and then they throw them away. Yeah. And then when the game is like releases glitchy, we'll just update it later on. Hot fixes, patches, expansions. And then, it just looks like the devs have become lazy and they opt to fix it later. But the devs, most of the devs that actually work on the game, they are passionate, but they're just brassed out. Because when you look at all the things that's been happening with Activision Blizzard, with Ubisoft, with EA, with all these type of companies, yeah, they have been hemorrhaging talent for years. And when I say years, decades. Like, look at that whole thing that happened in 2020 when the whole world got exposed. And then we actually got to see and understand why gaming development has been taking a nosedive for years on years on years. It's accumulative damage from all the rich people, the politicians, the bankers, the stock traders, the politicians, the corrupt people, all these lawyers, all these people that have got into gaming, and they just want to brass out the most talented gaming developers, get the most out of them, give the people as little as possible, just enough to get them to grab onto that game or onto that franchise, get as much money out of them while putting as little into it. Not giving the developers rest, not giving them correct pay. I did like a video back a couple years ago, 2020, right, when we were all, the C virus took over the world, yeah, where they were tying developers' money, their bonuses, to reviews. So if a game reviewed well, they would get some of their bonus. It didn't make any sense. So if the game didn't review right, developers didn't get their bonuses. And we didn't actually realize they've been doing this for years on years. And that is why the quality of gaming has just taken a nosedive. Because who wants to get into gaming when you've got to work for these people? Because gaming is an extremely hard job to do. I mean, most high skill jobs are hard to do. Once you get used to doing it and you could do it, every job is time consuming. Every job is hard, right? But it gets easier with time because you know what you're doing, but it's still going to be time consuming. But it doesn't change the difficulty, or else everybody would be a gaming developer. Yeah? But who wants to come into gaming when you've got to deal with the type of people that are in charge of these studios, that are in charge of all these kind of crazy companies? As I said, like EA, Ubisoft, Take-Two, Interactive, Activision Blizzard, EA, all these type of companies. Nobody. And that's why you see games that even these days, they're not even being tested. They release these games and they're not even complete. Yet they will charge customers for microtransactions, for DLC, for a product that's not even complete. To the point where gamers have become beta testers. Gamers, the gaming audience, us, we are now paying developers, game studios, to test their game for them. We are paying them to test their game, and then they'll fix it later on with a skeleton crew. That's why they're afraid of Baldur's Gate. Because Baldur's Gate goes against that. Baldur's Gate goes back to the days of Final Fantasy X, like Mass Effect 3. Sorry, Mass Effect 2. Not Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 2. It goes back to the days of Witcher 2. Those days where the developers actually cared. They were passionate about winning over the audience with a quality product, with content, with a good game, good story, good system, skills that work, amazing experience where you just wanted to keep on coming back and you wanted to wait until their next project and then you would invest in that project. And along the way, when richness and money and glory comes into it, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I can say, like, I can use an example like, you know what's coming. CD Projekt Red. Look at those guys. From Witcher 1, where they built up, Witcher 2, Witcher 3, which was their peak. They literally were the heroes when everybody was lying about their game, promising the gaming audience some incredible, amazing experience, and then they would just these gaming developers would just release a game that was completely unfinished, a buggy, glitchy mess with empty nothingness, and they will sell you DLC, sell you stages, sell you costumes, sell you skills that should have been launched with the game like a couple weeks after the game launches. You could have put this in the game. Games that are not even they're not even tested. You can clearly see that it's such a mess that their games are not tested, and they just launch these games. Yeah. CD Projekt Red would call these guys out. This is the reason that I wanted to support CD Projekt Red as long as they kept providing me with a good product. Yeah, because I'm not into supporting these multi-billion-dollar corporations. Yeah, without me getting something. You have to offer me a great experience. Offer me what I want. And all I want is a good gaming experience. I want to be happy. I want to immerse myself in a wonderful world and a wonderful gaming experience being a gamer. Yeah? They live long enough to see themselves become the villains of their own story. They started off their story as heroes saving the world, and they live long enough to see themselves become corrupted and then become the villains of the world that they originally set off as heroes to save. And that has become 98% of the gaming industry. And then you have companies that are starting to fix up, like Capcom, like Insomniac Games, you know, that are fixing up. I know Insomniac Games went through some craziness of the stories that were released, yeah, but they're fixing up, right? And you look at the games that they're releasing, super high quality, yeah, and, you know, testimonials from the staff there, they're fixing up. They are putting things in place. The people are much happier there. They're keeping to their promise of being a proper gaming company that treats people good and doesn't brass people out. You see, like, sometimes in social media where a game developer will say there's going to be no updates for the game that has been released, or a game that is coming. There's holidays. We can't release this game until it's finished. We have to put the dates back or whichever. I love to hear that. And when you see it on social media, hundreds of thousands of people will just say, yeah, take your time. Rest. Go have a holiday. That's fine. We're prepared to wait. Because human beings, normal human beings on a whole, care for other human beings. That's the reason why so many people broke during the pandemic. Because we didn't have each other. Human beings are not designed really to just be alone, in solitude. You know, human beings are beautiful people when they interact with each other, when they help each other, when they encourage each other, motivate each other, support each other. Nest are a wonderful, beautiful community that inspires other people and gives other people a good feeling, a good experience in life. Everything just feels so much better. And even in gaming, when everybody gets along and everybody is happy, and you make a game for everybody, guess what? Nobody feels alienated, nobody feels isolated, and everybody wants to get involved. And when you get involved, you have more people buying your product. It's simple. It's not even business sense, or it's just common logic, basic logic. So you do have companies like Capcom, who I think are the #1 developer in the world, gaming company in the world right now. And you have Insomniac Games. Nothing else really springs to my mind, but there are other companies, of course. The people that made Baldur's Gate, they seem like a happy bunch of people. Yes, I don't know what studio made it, but I would put them in it as well, judging from the game, judging from how happy the developers are when they talk about the game. Yeah, it doesn't seem like they have a gun to their head being forced to say that the good things about the studio and their working experience. And when you hear the actual studio head that made Baldur's Gate, he seems like a real good guy, man. And when the things he says, he just literally says common sense, like good knowledge, like coming from the thought process of a normal, good human being. So, yeah, so it just kind of, I would say it shocked me, but not really, how the gaming industry was just so fearful of Baldur's Gate, because they don't want to invest more time, more money, more resources into the video games that they're making. These studio heads, they don't want to do that. They want their games to be made with as little investment as possible and make maximum profit. That's what they want to do. So when people are starting to see games like they're starting to see games like Baldur's Gate 3, and they see the standard from where other games were supposed to be. Like, I kind of feel like when I look at Baldur's Gate and I look at the magic and the different classes and the weapons, and you have a whole team with you, and the character interactions and the magic and the weapons and the equipment, and as I say, all the different types of different races and the beautiful worlds, different types of world, an open world, and the combat system. I feel like this is where Final Fantasy should be. From what I'm thinking back from Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X was where I feel like Final Fantasy started to unravel. Yeah, because Final Fantasy X was one of the best Final Fantasies. I mean, people didn't really understand it back in the day. Final Fantasy X did have like a lot of hate towards it, because the main character was wearing yellow and blue and a bit of red, right? And he was always laughing, and he was kind of obnoxious, so people didn't understand who this character was. And when they look at trailers for the game, the character looks obnoxious, he doesn't look cool. He's a something ball player and something like Al Bed. That's the name of a certain group of people. Yeah. But Blitzball. He was a Blitzball player, which is kind of like, I would say, a cross between a, I don't know, an American football player and a football player and a netball player, kind of like a mix between that with a little bit of rugby. It's crazy, man. It was like all that kind of different sports mixed into one. Yeah. And people just didn't understand it. They didn't like it. But then when you play Final Fantasy X, it's actually a great game. It's incredible. And then word of mouth start to spread. No, give it a chance. And this was before the proliferation of the internet, and more things were more offline, more analog. And when you wanted your friend to get into a game, you just borrowed the game, Final Fantasy X, to your friend. They would play it, and they'd be like, "Oh wow, the game is actually really good." And then it become now, when people look at Final Fantasy X, everybody looks at it with rose-tinted glasses. But at the time, people didn't like it. And it was the same thing for Final Fantasy IX. And it was the same thing for Final Fantasy VIII. Nobody liked Final Fantasy VIII because of the way they used real life size characters instead of like the chibi characters. And just, it was not, they took away the junctioning system, the material system, and they replaced it with a junctioning system, right? And people just didn't like the new change and just the way character score looked and his personality, right? But now people realize Final Fantasy X was actually a good game, an amazing game, right? But ever since Final Fantasy X, it's Final Fantasy just lost and unravel. I'm hoping, I haven't played Final Fantasy 16 yet as I'm making this video. I'm making this on the 13th of the 8th, 2023. Yeah, haven't played Final Fantasy 16 yet, but that's about to change in a few weeks. Yeah, I feel like Final Fantasy should be where Baldur's Gate is. But then I look at Baldur's Gate and I feel this is where World of Warcraft should be as well. So it looked like Baldur's Gate is out Final Fantasy, and Baldur's Gate 3 is out World of Craft and World of Worldcraft. Yeah. So it's crazy, man, where the gaming industry is right now. And I just feel the way the gaming industry is untenable. It's untenable, man. They have to start treating people good to get more developers back into gaming. They have to believe in their IPs, invest in their IPs, put the quality back into the work, and then people will get into it. Why do you think Capcom, their stock is skyrocketing? They're making more money than they ever have back in the day because of quality. Games release complete. Graphics are amazing. Story is incredible. Some of their games have got incredible customization. Other of their games have just got a wonderful lore and replay value and just incredible gameplay layers. You look at a game like Monster Hunter Rise, Monster Hunter Iceborne, Monster Hunter World, Resident Evil 2 remake, Devil May Cry 5, all these type of games that they're releasing, and they've got more games that look like they're coming out that are going to be incredible, like Dragon's Dogma 2, this Pragmata game. Like, they're absolutely just nailing it. And you look at Insomniac Games with their Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales, and they've got the Wolverine game coming out and all this type of stuff. Quality above all. Not just doing a cash grab, live games as a service. That's the reason the people just rebel against, like, when they released the Suicide Squad game. When I first heard about Suicide Squad, I thought that game was going to be a team, I don't know, like kind of like a Final Fantasy, kind of like a mad adventure game. Like, imagine like Batman, yeah? I can't remember what it was. The first or the second Batman game that came out on the Xbox 360, I think it came out on. Yeah, like back in those days. Yeah, I thought it was going to be like an evolution of that type of a game. Yeah. Single player story mode game where you play with a team and they've all got different abilities, or you could use different characters. You didn't have to play with one. It just had like a big, crazy story with mad adventure. Turned out to be games as a service. So people, of course, rebel against that because this is not what they wanted. That's not what people want. So unless the game developers start to realize that people just want an amazing single player game, bro. Or if you're going to make a multiplayer game, have your heart in the right place and don't be thinking about profits first. About squeezing every little ounce of money out of the players, man. You release a game that is untested, unfinished. You have content cut from the game. Like you release the game, you have a certain area of the map that you intentionally do not put in the game, and then you will release it like 2 to 3 weeks after the game has launched, and then you purposely give the characters at launch mid to mediocre decent outfits, and then 3 weeks later or a month later you release DLC or microtransaction costumes where the character just looks incredible. Or you have like skills that is DLC or microtransactions where the character has they can gain a skill or a certain weapon that gives them an absolutely broken ability, or can allow them to level up super quickly, or obtain a certain amount of currency that allows them to buy the most expensive but powerful skill in the game. And if you don't do that, you will literally be playing the game for weeks upon weeks or months just to get enough, just to get that one powerful skill, right? Whatever happened to unlocks? You play a game and then abilities and skills get unlocked. Costumes get unlocked. Whatever happened to those days? And then once you see the game has done well, then you add something, new DLC, new characters, new costumes, new areas, new expansion, just like Mass Effect 2. Just like Witcher 2. You remember those days, man? Those days just seem so far away. And even this game, Baldur's Gate 3, when they've released it, the game has got no DLC coming down the pipe. It's a complete single player standalone game. No additional extras, no microtransaction nonsense, man. Do you understand the amount of good favor that they have now earned through this practice? The optics for Baldur's Gate 3 is legendary. If people don't get into Baldur's Gate 3 now, they're going to get their same audience for Baldur's Gate 3 into Baldur's Gate 4. If they do release a Baldur's Gate 4, you're going to have the Baldur's Gate 3 audience, the people that are interested in Baldur's Gate, the new people that are getting into Baldur's Gate 3, and then a new audience for Baldur's Gate that didn't actually get into Baldur's Gate 3. They're going to buy the new one, Baldur's Gate 4, when that releases in whenever it does. It's so simple. Deliver a good product. Don't try to cheat the people now. Don't play the short game. Play the long game. That's all I really want to say about that, Warriors. So yeah, that was me talking about Baldur's Gate 3 and why the gaming industry is afraid of that game, because they looked at games like Mass Effect, Witcher 3, Witcher 2, Witcher 3, all those type of games, Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, where there was a progression. Games were getting progressively better, but the games will cost them progressively more to make. But your profits will go up when you make that money. And I don't want to hear all the type of stuff where they say, oh, but we're not making money. If we do that, we're not going to get enough money to invest into the game. Try cutting your bonuses, because these people want to increase the amount of bonuses they're getting year on year on year. You don't need to be earning, executives, you don't need to be earning 50 million a year, 30, 20 million a year in your dividends and your bonuses. You don't need to be doing that. Spread the wealth with your developers. Spread the wealth into investment, into perpetuating a good game economy, a game system where you can create another game, another sequel, and you just keep on bringing up and expanding your audience. I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a gamer that likes good games. So yeah, warriors, that's all I want to say about that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And until my next video, take care. Stay blessed. Laters.